and welcome to another edition of Nick's Impromptu Reviews. I'm Nick, and today I'm going to review Krosmaster Arena by Ankama and Japanime Games. Now, this was on Kickstarter about a couple months ago, and that's how I got this copy, but I think it's readily available in stores now. And Krosmaster Arena, it's I guess a skirmish miniatures battle game that's set in this anime fantasy world, you know, with your typical wizards and warriors, and adding a few robots and stuff. So it's kind of like, I guess, a trimmed down version of Duel of Ages or any type of, you know, skirmish battle game you can think of. And the premise is pretty simple. You have your characters or warriors, put them in an arena, and fight it out. And this game supports from 2 to 4 players. You can play two teams of 2 players each, or you can play a four-way free-for-all. And you're set in this little map, and you just duke it out. And you know, there's some power-ups too. Duke it out, and whoever's the last one standing, wins the game. Sounds simple, but let's see if it's good. Okay, well, here's the initial setup of the Krosmaster Arena, and before I get into that, I'm just going to show you these figures, how incredible these things look. I mean, these are the best miniatures I've ever seen out of the box in any game. I mean, they're also pre-painted, so you really don't have to worry about painting them yourself. And that's a lot of value for this game, just for the miniatures alone. Look at these things. They have that anime style, chibi look, and wow, they just look incredible. Anyway, this is the initial setup for the game of Krosmaster. Now, it can go up to 2 to 4 players, but this is a setup for a 2-player game. And each team, they choose 4 characters from the box. Now, you can do it any way. You can do a draft, or you can just agree on which figures you get, or which miniatures you get. And before you do that, you have to get their matching card. And the cards have all their stats in this. Let's take anatomy for a second. It has their stats: 3 movement points, 12 health, and 6 action points. And they also have a value of 3 and an initiative of 9. And I'll get into these stats later. Okay. So once the teams are picked, each player picks a side. In a 2-player game, they pick the first 2 rows and they set up their characters in the first 2 rows, and the setup cells are marked with like 2 of these. I think they're footprints or leaves, but I don't know. They have to place their figures in those squares. And once that happens, then you got to set up the timeline. And what you do, you take their corresponding cards and you look at their initiative, and it's that little tiny number on the focus. I don't know, is it going to focus or not? Well, anyways, this one has an initiative 9. And what you do, you take the ones with the highest initiative, you put it on your left, and those are the ones that are going to go first, and then you put them in order. Okay? And that's called your timeline. And that's the order of the characters, of what the character's going to do. Now, the object of this game, okay, is yes, you have to eliminate the other players, but really, it comes down to these gallons of glory here. Now, each team has 6 gallons of glory, and there is 1 wild. And every time we kill one of your opponent's characters, you take that many gallons of glory, and it depends on their power. So, for instance, Little Healy, if you kill Little Healy, you'll get 3 gallons of glory. Now, on your first kill, you have to get the wild one first, and then like 2 more from the other team. And if you're the one to eliminate the gallons of glory from the other side, you win the game. And there are other ways to get gallons of glory. Now, as you notice in this, let me zoom in for a bit. On the board, you have all these little coins scattered around. That's called commas. And you can also get a gallon of glory, or steal a gallon of glory from your opponent, by collecting 10 commas and then coming to one of these demon heads. Let me see. Yeah, there's one right here. One of these demon temples. You turn in it costs 1 action point to turn in your commas, and you can get a gallon of glory. So there are 2 ways to get gallons of glory, but the most efficient way is to kill your opponent first. Okay, but when it comes down to it, it gives you another option where you can just collect coins and then just buy a gallon of glory from the demon head. Okay, so let's get this battle started. Okay, so like I said, after you set the timeline and set up the board, what you do is you add up all the initiatives of your team, and the one who has the highest goes first. In this case, the team on the right goes first because they have, I think they have a higher total initiative. And you go with the timeline, okay? So you go from left to right, and the first person will be Anatomy, okay? not cute. They have these cute names. Anyways, let's look at the card again. Okay, she has 3 movement points, which means she can move 3 squares, 12 hit points, and 6 action points. Okay, and that's how many action points they can use a turn. And let's look at her special ability, or actually his special abilities. Or is it her? No, it's her, Anna. Her special abilities. Okay, one of her attacks is an assault, and it has a range of 1 to 2. And it switches position with the targeted character. So they switch positions and does 1 green damage. And it costs 3 action points. So that she can do that if she's in range. Okay? And I'll tell you what the damage does later. But it only costs 3 action points. So she can actually do that twice if she wanted to. And this one's transposition, which switches position with the targeted ally, so one of her teammates, she can just switch positions and it costs 3 action points. Okay, so let's take the first round now. Nothing's going to happen right now, I don't think, but we'll see. Okay, so each character can move and then use their action points. So in this case, Anatomy can move 3 squares. Now here's the thing. To move, you can move vertical and horizontal, but you cannot move diagonal. Okay, so you have to move around. He can't move directly from this side. He has to move right here. Now sometimes there's commas on the ground, and you can spend 1 action point to get it. So let's say Anatomy goes over here, and since she knows she probably won't fight right now, why don't you go ahead and spend an action point on that? So now she has 5 action points. And when you gather these comma, or the money, they go into a common pool. Okay, they're not individualized. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, and she can spend another action point to grab that 2 comma, and that's the end of her turn. And no one's in range, so that would be the end of their turn, and all the other characters move as well. Okay, so I went ahead and moved the rest of the players the rest of the characters on the right team, and let's start with the left team. I already moved the first player, which is Queen of the Kobolds, who moves 4, so I moved her over there. And the next one is Bill Tell, and he has a movement of 3, hit points of 6, and action points of 6. And he also has a Plaguing Arrow, which is a ranged attack that's ranged from, as you can see, from 3 to 8 squares. Okay, so let's go ahead and move Bill Tell, because I think he'll be able to attack. So Bill Tell moves 3, 1, 2, 3, and like I said, you cannot move diagonal, so he'll just move in a straight line. But however, let's count right here. And when you're counting, you also do not count diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it is within 3 to 8 squares. So he's in range and he makes the attack. Now, when you make an attack, you automatically hit it for whatever value it is. In this case, it hits for 1 point. So Anatomy is being hit by 1 point. However, you can roll for a critical, and what you do is you roll one of these dice. Okay, and let me show what the squares mean. That means defense, which I'll show you later. Now this is the critical, and that's a critical, and the S, which is a wild card, which can be anything. You can use that as a critical as well. So there's a pretty good chance that he'll roll a critical, 50% chance. So let's roll for Bill Tell, and Bill rolls a shield, which does nothing when you're attacking. Okay, so he's not going to get the critical, which would have added an extra damage. Okay, but he at least does 1 damage. However, Anatomy has a chance to defend, and what they can do, they can roll the shield or the wild card. Okay, so there's like a 33% chance. Yeah, 33% chance that she'll deflect it. Okay, so let's roll for Anatomy. Anatomy rolls a magnet, which does nothing. That's a hold. And so Anatomy takes 1 damage, and what you do, you mark it right here. And if they're down to 12, or if down to 0 hit points, then she dies. Okay, so, and that's how attacks work. Okay, now let's look at melee attacks. Now, every character, they have at least 1 basic melee attack, and that's called the punch. And now the punch, it does 1 damage, and it costs 5 action points to do. All right, so let's say that right here, the king of the go balls punches little Remington Smice over here, and he'll use his just a normal punch ability, and all they have to do the same thing. They take one of the attack dice. Okay, take one of the attack dice, roll to see if it's a critical, and yes, it's a critical. So instead of doing 1 damage, he'll do 2. But let's see if Remington Smice can let's see, defend it or deflect it, and he does not. That's a magnet. He needed the shield in order to deflect 1, so Remington Smice will take 2. Now there are other melee attacks. Some characters have different melee attacks that do different damage or do something special, but the melee attack, the punch, is the basic thing that everybody can do regardless of what your character's powers are. Now here's another thing. Once they're locked into combat right here, okay, and this will explain the rest of the dice. If, let's say on Remington Smice's turn, he wants to leave, okay? Now if you're adjacent to an enemy character, the enemy character has an opportunity to lock, okay? So what happens is that, let's say King of the Go Balls, like Remington Smice wants to leave. King of the Go Balls, nope, I'm going to try to lock him. So what he needs to roll the magnet. And the magnet, or the wild, those are the two to have him lock Remington Smice. So let's roll. And, oh, guess what? He rolled a magnet. Okay. Now, he doesn't automatically lock him, and when you lock him, the Remington Smice loses all his action points, and he has to stay there, okay? However, he can counter it by clicking the boot, which is a dodge, okay? That's a dodge. So 1, 2, and there's a 50% chance that Remington Smice can dodge. So he can negate that lock with a dodge, and he does, because this one gives you an option to do a dodge or a critical, okay? So Remington Smice can move as normal and use up all his action points. Okay, now even though it's the most efficient to win by killing your opponents, there is another way to get these Gallons of Glory, but the most efficient way is by killing your opponents. And like I said, when you kill an opponent, you take the Gallons of Glory equal to the amount of their value, okay, and their value is located on the upper right hand corner. So for instance, if you kill Little Healy, you'll get 3 Gallons of Glory, and if the wild is available, you'll use that as one of your Gallons of Glory, and then you take 2 others. Now another way you can do it is these commas. If you manage to collect 10 of them and then go to the demon, you can spend those 10 to steal a Gallon of Glory if the wild's not available, so you can do that as well. So that gives you another option, but I found out that just killing each other is more efficient. And also, these little demon heads, they grant special powers. You can use the money to buy some things. So let's look. And you have the value from 3, 6, and 12. So if you spend that much comma, you can get it. And depending on, and you get, I'm supposed to put this face up at the beginning. Depending on the value, the better they are, and they give you a little bonus for right here. They give you a +1 to your green attack or yellow attack, and here they give you +5 to your health, and that's what those special abilities do, and they add a little edge to your game. And that's pretty much it. You fight until your opponent runs out of Gallons of Glory, and like I said, when you beat them to 0 health, that's probably the most efficient way to do it. And that's pretty much the game right there. So those are the basics of Krosmaster Arena. What I forgot to mention is that before each turn there's something called the intensity phase. And what it is you roll the attack dice, and they will temporarily give 2 of your characters a special ability for that turn. So for instance, if you roll and one of the dice you rolled is a critical dice, you can assign it to a character, and what they'll do, they'll roll an extra critical dice or an extra dodge dice, depending on what kind of dice you roll. And another thing is that if you happen to roll doubles, then each team loses a Gallon of Glory, and that sort of just speeds the game up. So the intensity phase, it kind of adds a little bit of randomness and surprise to the game. You know, adds a little spice to the game of unpredictability. And I think it's a good touch to this game. And also, each character, they're very unique. They all have a special ability that can help them. Like some will have like a special attack that will affect an area, or some might have like a teleportation ability, or some even have like healing ability. So it adds a lot of variety to this game. And if you have a good mix of players that synergize well with each other, you can have a pretty potent team. Now, also they have a point system. So if you have something, and in general, all the characters are pretty balanced, but you may have some that maybe seem a little overpowered, but what they do, they try to limit it by giving it a high point value. And if you want to play this like Warhammer or something where your army is built on a point system, then the higher the points, the higher cost it will be, and you can play it that way also. But in general, this game is it's nothing serious. It's just a fun little skirmish battle game that you can get done in like an hour, not that long, and and it's really really easy to play, and you don't have to really. There's not so many rules and technicalities that you have to worry about like in Warhammer or War Machine. So it's pretty fast paced and real easy to play, and that's a good thing. All right. Well, first off, let me show you something, and you probably saw it in the video, but I can't get over these miniatures. These miniatures are just incredible. I mean, just look at them. I mean, they're really detailed. I mean, I love the little, I guess you call it chibi anime style, but these figures are just amazing. And they are pre-painted, and the paint jobs are pretty good, And to be honest, this is what really attracted me to the game. I mean, when I saw it on Kickstarter, I'll admit, I got it just for the figures. I mean, even if the game was mediocre, I think I got my money's worth with just the figures. I mean, look at these figures. They are just incredible. And I have a lot of them from Kickstarter. So I have about 20 different figures here. And they are just, wow, they're just amazing. They have, I mean, pretty good detail. I mean, even if I don't like this game, I can use these figures for like Dungeons and Dragons or something. Okay? So, is the game good though? Because I told you that these miniatures are great, and the game is good. Okay, it is kind of simple, and I'm a big Warhammer type fan, so I do like miniature games. But this is a nice light one. I mean, there's nothing big or deep about it. It's a lot of dice rolling, which some people don't like, some people like. I personally like. I don't care how random it is. Some of the characters may be a little imbalanced, but all in all, it's a decent light skirmish game. Nothing serious. If you want to get a quick battle out of the way, this would be a good idea. It's nothing complex, but the thing is, that could be a good thing, because like Warhammer 40K and Warhammer Fantasy, those games are, I mean, they're good war games, but man, I mean, the rule books are really thick, and sometimes it can get bogged down, especially when you use special powers. And here, the special powers are quite simple. They don't have many things to worry about. So I would say yes, the game overall is decent. I mean, the powers in each of them, they're not too overpowering. They have like give you a little advantage or a little type of power, but nothing overpowering. And it's just real fun, and you don't have to worry about all these special rules of line of sight. And it's all pretty laid out there. It's really really simple, and you know what, that is a good thing. They made the rules simple and streamlined, so it's pretty fast paced. And yes, you know what, I do like this game. It may not be balanced, and yeah, it's maybe some hardcore war gamers or fantasy gamers might be turned off of how simple it is. So it might alienate two groups. You know what I mean? The people who don't like miniature games may not like it, but man, look at these figures. They look so cool. I mean, awesome. Look at this guy. He has a nice spear, and to be honest, even if you buy it for just the miniatures, it's worth it, okay? And like I said, components do a lot, okay? But even if the components were just normal, the game is decent, okay? So, with that, I will give Krosmaster Arena, with its cool little figures, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. And 7, like I said, that's a recommendation. 7 or more is a recommendation. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and play with these. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.